makes even teacher a good teacher. And if the seeker is not interested, not contemplating, then the problem remains as it is. That is very important to us. Why it does not happen? Because we are not contemplating. Why I'm not contemplating and reflecting on it? Because the RSM syndrome is at the peak in my life. And if it is peak in my life, mind can return to it again unless there is some fundamental change takes place. So again you see in a different way this 18 chapters, first 6 chapters, real self, karma yoga, self effort. I am using a different language to make you understand real self and individual self, karma yoga. But karma yoga, obviously, it is a self effort, it is a personalized effort that we should be. What is karma yoga? The attitudinal change in the mind. Attitudinal change in the mind means I am not the doer and the experiencer. And the individual, and outside is the karma. Karma is done in the same way, but only it lacks a craziness behind I have done this self effort, I must get this result. The result depends on many factors, and if one of these factors do not meet, we do not get the desired result. And if I'm craving for a desired result, obviously karma yoga is not done because my doer has returned. Beautiful, that we will talk in 14th chapter. I'm just deviating and will come back. Pay attention. I am speaking. So it means that I am not the speaking. Even though I use I am speaking, you are listening, you are not the listening. Listening is different from a listener. The speaker is different from the speaking. I am walking does not mean that walking is me and mine. So that results into the 14th chapter once we clearly understand, oh, this is what is happening, and that is why I am attached. What is the principle? It's very clear. I am not what I am doing. I am not what I am doing. So once that is not clear, then my friend, what happens? Then I become the doer and the experiencer. Who eats? My mouth, my tongue, and ultimately food is gone inside, but in a convenient language. It is a matter of language, the way we speak. I'm eating, I'm walking, I will reach to your house, etc. etc. So what it means, I am not an action. We should be aware. I am not an action. Now see in the next 6 chapters, the real self is replaced by a supreme self or the supreme consciousness. Now you can say God or whatever the word we want to use, it's okay. Now what about the karma yoga? Karma yoga is replaced by a love for that supreme self. So there is an emotional change in the next 6 chapters. And how the self-effort is replaced by the great grace and the blessing. It means in the first 6 chapters we have to do a lot of practices and understand the principles. The time comes we recognize the grace and the blessing is natural. It is always there, coming from the existence. So because the next 6 chapters we understand. Let's compare and contemplate on this real self and the individual self Karma yoga and the self-effort. Self-effort means personalized effort. That's why I gave you those practices. Second 6 chapters, the Supreme Self replaces the real self, that we should have a clear understanding of the Supreme Self. Second is instead of the Karma Yoga, we do the Upasana. The word is known as Upasana. If you are studying those books from Swami Chinmayanand and Swami Dayanand, you will hear that, you will read that word Upasana is there. Upasana, the literal meanings, approaching near to the Supreme Consciousness. Because now I have understood who I am. But if I have not understood who I am, I have a false notion of who I am. And if that false I approaches to the Supreme, it is not possible. So what happens? Because it changes because of the Karma Yoga. And the Karma Yoga does not change my mindset. And now I'm approaching the God, going to the organized religion and prayer and the word. Everything is good. I have no complaint, no regret. At least instead of a bar, you are going to a temple and a church. That much benefit is there. But if you say awakening, no, not possible. Grace and the blessing replaces the self-effort. And in the third 6 chapters, we understand that third 6 chapters, now you see, I'm explaining in a different way how the personalized effort meets the grace and the blessing coming from the existence all the time. How the personalized effort and the grace and the blessing meets the grace and the blessing, and there we find the oneness of the real self and the Supreme Self in one way, that is known as the awakening. But the mind we cannot awaken unless we remember, unless we understand. I'm just giving you some ideas about it, that we should understand how the 3 gunas, the Sato, Rajo and Tamo guna working in the mind prevents me to realize the real self, creates the false I, and ultimately puts me again into the same situation again and again. That is one aspect, and many other aspects are discussed and to be understood. 20 verses. From the verse number 11 to 20 verses, from verse number 1 to 30th verse. We intellectually understand it, then we understand it clearly, it is possible. So that understanding gives a true picture of who am I. So verse number 12 and 13 says, I am eternal. Verse number 16 says, I am truth. And verse number 17 says, I am all-pervading. Verse number 18 says, I am aprameya. Aprameya means I cannot be objectified. I am not an object of knowledge. I am not an object of perception. Verse number 19 makes us understand I'm neither a doer and the experiencer. You see, I told you in the first 6 chapters we are understanding. So he is laying down a foundation of the first 6 chapters. So verse number 19 says, I'm neither a doer nor an experiencer. Means I'm not a painter or a feeler, etc., etc. And the verse number 20th, yes, it says, I do not undergo any of the 6 modifications. Modifications mean changes. Means, I exist. It means the moment I exist is the name and the form. And that's where I take a birth, second change, I grow. Growth is natural, but I change, my body, mind changes, then it decays, and ultimately the death. So these six changes, I am not the part of any of these changes. When I say I'm eternal and beyond what it means, it simply means that I'm beyond the periods of the time. I do not belong to the past, present, or the future. It is one continuous time. I bypass that time. That is the meaning of eternal. What happens in RSM syndrome? I worry at different times. So who worries? That I is the false I. Obviously the RSM that we discussed in detail. I am the truth. Now when I say I am the truth, that we should need to understand that we are beyond the time, space, and objects. Truth means always there. It is the same. So it should not undergo any change in time, in space, means, and in objects, name and the form. My body changes, my mind changes, intellect changes, ego changes. So what it means, if I'm clouded by the space, time, and object, if I'm clouded by the space, time, and object, it means what? I always taken for granted that I'm changing. You see, a very systematic approach is taken up in Gita. I told you that it is a summary of all the Upanishads. So gradually we will also refer to those Upanishads. Now, I have understood I'm eternal and I'm truth. But if I'm eternal and I'm truth, I'm all pervading. The conclusion is that if I'm eternal and if I'm truth, it means the truth exists everywhere. So I have to be all pervading. So we have to understand it clearly. How come I'm all pervading? What is that entity in me which is all pervading? And that results into another conclusion in the fourth attribute of the real self. If I am the real self, I cannot be objective. Means I cannot be objectified. Why? How come? The moment I become an object, it has a name in the form, and if I have a name in the form, then it will be confined to the time, present, past, in the future. What is the shape today? What is the shape yesterday? What will happen? This is the shape day after tomorrow. It means that the moment I become an object, I'm subjected by the time. When I was born, 1950, how old I am now? So I have changed a lot. So you see the very hair-splitting analysis of understanding that from the first four attributes, I am the real self, I cannot be objective. If I'm objective, I cannot be all-pervading. How come you say that? You are sitting there or I'm sitting here. You are not pervading here, I'm not pervading there. So you are an object. So I claim that you are with the body-mind complex sitting in your home and I'm here sitting at my home. This is an object. I cannot be objective. So that is why the real self can never become the object of perception. Object means the name and the form, subjected by the time, subjected by the situation. You are sitting there, but I said you transcend the space. So that is why it cannot be objective. And then I am a non-doer. Oh, I am a non-doer. So I am a non-doer. So who is the doer actually? Doer is the false I. So that is why we have the karma yoga. I cannot be modified. So now all the five attributes bring us to a conclusion that I cannot be modified. Who is not modified? The real self. Who is modified? The body-mind complex is modified, and that is not me. But why I claim that is me? Because of the RSM syndrome we have already covered in the chapter 1. Let us go back a little about the knower number 1, 2, and 3. I will add some more elements so that because you are contemplating and reflecting, so it's good. Mouse is known to me. Mouse is known and eyes are the knower. Knower and the known are always different and separate. Knower cannot join the known. It means the knower cannot identify with the qualities of the known. At present, this is a mouse. Mouse is in black color. It means eyes are the knower. It means my eyes cannot become black in color. It is independent. So there is some entity which is independent even in my sense organs. But what happens? I object. Every object becomes subject. I hate this black color. I hate this girl, and I love this girl. So I have mixed up the knower and the known due to the ignorance. It is 100% clear. You look at your honey and you look at any other girl. So with your reference to your honey, you have mixed up your emotions and the feeling. With other girl, you may or may not. If you do that, then the problem of infidelity comes. So everything comes from the mind. So pay attention. Mouse is known. I gave an example. Eyes are the knower. Knower and the known are always different and separate. First, knower cannot join the known. Anytime this knower means what? My tongue cannot join if there is a hot spice. Next time you don't eat, so your tongue does not taste hot. It remains an independent. Ears, whatever it hears, whether the tick-tick in a meditation session or not, it does not join there. But if it is constantly joining, so the problem is in the mind. The knower is always of the nature of consciousness or light. That is important. And the known is always of the nature of matter, unconsciousness, inert. If the knower is not of the nature of the consciousness, then you cannot recognize, you cannot see, you cannot understand.
Can we say it doesn't get it as not mixing with it, or say it affected by it?
Same thing. If we mix it, we subjectify. Then I become the black mouse. And then, I create the likes and dislikes. When I create the likes and dislikes, like and dislike takes me to the sorrow and the suffering. And ultimately it is happening because of the delusion. What is delusion? Because I mixed up. Knower is always of the nature of light. Light, or you can say the consciousness. Even though it is borrowed from the mind, but as long as these sense organs are working as knower, knower means that knows. Knower also, we use the word. Many master uses the word knower also means that illuminates. Now see, my eyes are closed. I don't see the sun. So the light in my eyes illuminates and I know the sun is. The sun does not help me to know the eyes. Hence the sun is a matter, it is inert, it is known, and I am a knower. So when I say I am the knower, I am the sense organ as a knower. What a beautiful hair splitting analysis of the journey. Light in the eyes knows you as a name in the form. Now see another example. Even if there is a very sharp light in my room, but if there is no light in my eyes, means there is no consciousness in my eyes as a knower, I do not know you. Whether light is there or light is not there, it doesn't make any difference. So we are using the word the knower illuminates the objects. That's how we know. The light or the consciousness of the ears as a knower illuminates the sound, illuminates the taste in the tongue, illuminates the sensation in the skin, illuminates 5 sense organs. One conclusion comes. That needs to be remembered all the time. What is that? Take an example of the mouse. So my eyes are looking at this. What it means by eyes are looking at this. Eyes is looking at this object. That is the first thing. Now the consciousness in that eyes pervades the boundary of the mouse to recognize this as an object. But if there is a mixture, then I am in a delusion. So I mix up and I enter into a delusion. Take another example. I see you. I see you means my eyes as a knower sees you. So until the consciousness pervades entirely the object to be known, I cannot know the object. Means what? Any object that I know in this world, any object, including the honey, they are also an object for me. I am a knower. It means to see, to know. The light of the consciousness pervades the object to know it. We are going a little slowly but deeper so that we can have a clarity about these concepts. These verses are taking a little longer time, but after that we can. I told you, second chapter is the foundation of the entire Gita. So we have understood it means whatever I know, sense organ know, light of the consciousness. That consciousness pervades the entire object to know. Object does not need to pervade. Object does not need to pervade.
The sense organs only know the part that's equal to the sense organ, right? So when I'm looking at you, I see your body. You may be conscious being, right? But the part I'm knowing is the body.
Yes, it is.
And so I'm not knowing the self in you.
Yes.
Because I'm using the eyes.
And then I use ideas, imaginations. Honey, I know you love me, but I am seeing an object and I'm telling an object that I love you. That's a greater part of the delusion in our life. That's a greater part of the delusion. So yes, now the knower, it means what? The knower is more pervasive than the known. That is the conclusion. Knower, anyway, any knower, whether it is the sense organs, whether it's the mind, they are more pervasive than the objects or the known. But still, these sense organs, as you rightly said, these sense organs are limited to their pattern of knowledge. Why? They are the matter. Senses are the knower. Number one is limited in its scope. It cannot find the real self. Why it cannot find the real self? Because it can only know the object, and the real self cannot be objectified. So we can rule out sense organs. Don't try hard. Don't try to figure out. Don't try to fight and react that all these respective sense organs can know the real self. So at least we are happy, we are clear in our head. Anytime the mind creates a sense of identity I can brush aside, and I am happy before and I am happy after. So it not only it helps you to dissolve the RSM syndrome instantly, just in a flick of an eyelid. Ah. Now comes, what can I say? Now we have to understand if the knower is limited by the name in the form. That is our question to be answered. Knower is more pervasive than the object or the known. Clear? I'm making a statement. If the knower is limited like the mind, any knower becomes limited, it becomes an object. I started with the knower and the known. And the knower, I said, knower is the light of the consciousness. I said that is also okay. Knower cannot become the known, that is also okay. Now we have a question. If the knower is limited, means it is an object. If it is an object, it do not remain as a knower, a permanent knower. It is limited in its space, in the time, in the object. Give me an example. I see you at a distance, but if you go a little too far from me, I don't see you. I don't recognize you. You come very clear. You just, your eyes and you hug me completely, so I don't recognize you. Oh, these senses are an object? Yes. The mind is an object? Yes. I'm just giving you a bite of it, and definitely we will continue that journey. So, but Master says the real self is all pervading. Real self is eternal. How come? So one conclusion, the sense organs in the mind cannot know the real self. That is one conclusion. And the second conclusion, it means if the real self is all pervading and that knower, that real self is also all pervading knower. What? I am pervaded in the entire cosmos and the universe. The answer is yes. But why I don't feel it? Because of the RSM syndrome. I claim I am an object. When I am an object, I am subjected by the time. When I am subjected by the time, I have a feeling of insecurity of the death. And a long list. That's how. Because of that insecurity, I am attached. I am detached to the people. Because of that sense that I am an object. I am not a consciousness, so hence I am carried away by the likes and dislikes, joy and the sorrow, attachment and detachment, and a long list that we have already discussed before. I'm giving a final conclusion. Knower is always consciousness. Whether it is passing through the eyes or whether it is passing through the mind, it cannot be the matter. And if it cannot be the matter, it cannot be the object. Knower is always consciousness. In the presence of the light, my eyes, light reflected the image of you in the retina, but who is the knower? Knower is the consciousness. Eyes cannot be the knower because eyes is a matter. So the mind is a matter. Yes. So it means that knower is always a consciousness. We attach that consciousness with eyes, and I say I see you and I know you. I attach myself with the mind. So I say mental consciousness, Fact is that the mind is different from the consciousness. When I say I know you, I see you, the knower are the sense organs, and I claim that these eyes are consciousness. No, it is a matter, it is inert. It is an object. It is subjected to the change. That's why I'm wearing the glasses. Maybe after a few years, I have to wear other glasses. Anything that is subjected to change is an objective reality. Anything that is objective reality has a name in the form. Anything which has an objective reality, name in the form, it will undergo 6 modifications. But I'm none of that. I'm pure consciousness. How simple it is. No, not so simple, but we have to contemplate and reflect. We have to reflect. We have to be a higher level of a seeker. Knower is always consciousness.
Maybe this is too abstract, but in this context, wouldn't you say that, everything is pure consciousness?
Everything is?
Well, so if it's all pervading, and I'm pure consciousness because it's pervading, I'm pervading, my true self is all pervading, therefore, me and you are no different.
Yes.
Right? The consciousness, but me and a dog, in a sense, is no different.
So when I say I am a dog, I'm identifying myself with the name and the form.
But the consciousness supporting the form of the dog.
Yeah. So
be the same consciousness. Right?
Yes. When you said abstract, these abstract ideas happening in the mind because of the ignorance resolved in I think 13th and the 14th chapter. Until then we have to. That's why we have 18 chapters. That's why I'm reminding you. That's why
I figured it was down the road.
Down the road. So, but fact is that if you say it is an abstract, the logic is that, okay, let me remove the consciousness and recognize who is who. Eyes are functional, intact. Have you not seen those people who are blind, but when you look into their eyes, oh, their eyes look so fine. It is the absence of the consciousness. So is the problem and the fault with the eyes, which is a matter? They go for a surgery, or a doctor says, oh, let me correct the eyes. They do not correct the consciousness. Sun is behind the curtain. They have not done to the sun what I have done. I have put the curtain. So there is some curtain in the eyes, and that curtain is removed in the eyes by a doctor, and the sun passes through. I am able to see it. It is not abstract. It is real. How can you say it is abstract? Yes, we need to discuss. We need to find out all the questions, remove the doubts. Why? Clarity and conviction must enter into the intellect first, followed by the practice. So that's why we have the 18 chapters. And so you see, now once we have understood it clearly, so now we can really understand why the master says, wise men do not think that I'm suffering from the stress. Only the wise fool think that I'm suffering from the stress. Now you see the clarity. That one consciousness is all pervading. I cannot be subjectified by the time, by the space, by the location, because I'm all pervading, but I'm talking like a wise fool. In other words, the master says there was never a time when I did not exist. There was never a time when you did not exist. There will never be a time when you will not be there and I will not be there. And if you disapprove this understanding, it means I'm not all pervading. Forget about the non-existent. It can never happen to the real self. It can never happen to the consciousness. The very nature of the real self is existence. It cannot become non-existent. So why to suffer? No reason to suffer. But why I am suffering? I have a feeling of insecurity and a fear and dissatisfaction, unhappiness caused by the RSM syndrome. It is happening in the mind. I'm making a big statement that comes in 15th chapter. Master says, what the Master says, at no point of time you are suffering from insecurity, fear, anxiety, duality, and a conflict. It is happening because of the delusion. So what is the goal of the entire Eastern wisdom? We help you recognize that as such there is no insecurity. There is no unhappiness. So what is left? What is left will be all-pervading. What is that all-pervading? All-pervading is peace and happiness, love and wisdom. Finished. So what is that state? That state is awakening. That state is realization. There are hundreds of masters living silently. They do not want to become the teacher. Well, maybe because of my past impressions, I'm just doing this. They are just living in the Himalayas, just silently. Why don't you go and teach? I don't feel like that. So there is a tradition in India that obviously people recognize that this guy has been living in this small cave for the last 10 years. Never go for even the food. So here, if it happens in USA, people say this guy is crazy. But in India, people recognize them. Even I am totally suffering from ignorance, but I pay respect. I make it sure that that master gets the food for 2 or 3 times. They will never ask you anything. If it comes, it's okay. If it doesn't come, it's okay. They can remain hungry even for a couple of days. Why? The hunger is part of the body, not to them. They have proved it once, not once, but millions of times. There are thousands. I would say there are thousands of people. Those masters living in the caves. They don't want to come to the world. It's okay. It's part of their journey. But it does not mean if I start living in the cave without understanding this, I will become an awakened guy. Oh, that is a great mistake. We do it. So you see that karma yoga here, that's why we lay a foundation of the karma yoga, helps me to recognize the favorable and the unfavorable conditions in my life, favorable and unfavorable relations in my life. And I instantly recognize it is because of the doer and the experiencer in the mind. There the attitudinal change is demanded, is required. And outer, I need not to put a target. Means what? I do not seek the fruit of my action. So I offer the action to the existence. I don't care whatever happens, but at the time of delivery, that very action is nearing perfection. So we keep doing the karma yoga, even without even thinking of bringing an external change. I want to change my honey. Better to change yourself instead of changing your honey. First you change yourself. The change that will reflect in you perhaps will change the attitude of others. It may be possible, it may not be possible. In both the cases you are happy. Because you are not directed, you are not reacting. You are always on the path of the peace and happiness. But when I am attached, obviously, then I'm looking for a goal. I told you to do this. You don't do this. The Master says, when we are talking to others, first talk to yourself. First talk to yourself. Why the hell mind you are going to the others? Why you have been thinking about the other or the situation and the conditions? Maintain your awareness. Get rid of this RSM syndrome. What will happen in the beginning? Lot of pain, mental, emotional pain will happen because mind is habitual. Because mind has become a habitual of listening to the RSM syndrome. So I give an example. When the vaccination is given, suddenly you suddenly you have a high fever. So high fever indicates a higher level of immunity. Wait for it. Keep on doing the karma yoga. You may feel a lot of contradictions in your mind. Keep on doing it. Your mind will say, no, I responded to this guy like this last time and he hurt me. No, I have to bear the burden of others who are living around me, to rise on the occasion to live into the higher consciousness. It's not so easy, my friend. My Sri Aurobindo, one of the greatest masters, I lived there for about 2 years in their monastery. He says, when you are a seeker, not only you bear the burden of your Asarasam syndrome, but you also bear the burden of others. But it does not mean that you create another ego. Look at this, I'm suffering because of you. Then you have created another delusion. It's very subtle. So we have to go in a very subtle manner each day. It's totally different perspective in life. So it is not an ego that I bear the burden of others. I am evolving, honey, because you are creating problem to me. That problem is an opportunity for me to evolve. And you met me. I met you because of the existence. So I get rid of the doer and the experiencer completely. I'm brushing aside the RSM syndrome which is playing in my mind. That is the key. So that I'm just giving a tip of that. We will talk about in third and the fourth chapter. So the master says, and endurance is the key. I'm talking about, the 12, 13, 14 and 15 verses. If you look and they will say endurance. So that endurance gives me happiness. That endurance does not build my ego because I'm tolerating you. That is a positive aspect. Endurance is not a negative aspect. How come? Endurance. How come? RSM syndrome has colored because of mixing of the knower and the known. That's why we talked about that. So first there is a mixing. Mixing causes the delusion. Now I see you are responsible for my stress and suffering. I am not able to separate. You are an object of knowledge. I am a knower of you. Hence both are different. Where is the problem of suffering comes? You are not at all responsible. We are going a little deeper from here. That is explained in these verses. I'm not picking up verse by verse, that we will pick up later, that how the third or fourth and fifth and sixth chapters are related to this verse, and then you can easily understand. It's a very symmetrical, it's a very organized the way Krishna has taught. That's why Krishna is known as the world teacher. Why? Because we all are suffering from the same problem. So it's not that he declared, I am a teacher of the world. No. Because we all are suffering from the same problem again and again. And we do not understand this. We are going a little deeper. What is that deeper? Same example of the mouse. There is a mouse and there is a knowledge of the mouse. Two things. There is a mouse. We can take any object. There is a mouse and there is a knowledge of the mouse. Can we think of the mouse if it does not exist? You cannot think of that mouse does not exist. So now here the master says, oh, you say the mouse does not exist. I cannot think of mouse does not exist. Your attention is required. Very deeper, but not very difficult. So now can I say the mouse does not exist? No, mouse exists. And I crush this mouse. So mouse in the form of a particles exist. I cannot deny any existence. I cannot deny. Okay, let those granules of the mouse is converted into a powder, and still the mouse exists in the form of a powder. Most challenging understanding comes. There is an existence, one thing. In that existence, something exists. And that existence is the real self. That existence is the pure consciousness.
I was thinking yesterday, is it, so if I were to say a blue chair, right, so the adjective or the descriptor is blue, and the chair, in a sense, are like objects almost like a descriptor of consciousness in that form. So like a chair is really consciousness plus chair.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's, right?
Yes.
Because if it's all pervading, it's
yes.
essentially like consciousness is everywhere, and now in that form it's a chair. But really I'm describing consciousness still, only in the shape of a chair.
No.
Right, which is not real. In the sense that name and form is a mental construct.
In every object, there are two things. Let us understand it that way. Your explanation is very good, and from their explanation, we have to derive two things. There is a consciousness plus mouse. We forget the consciousness, we forget the knower, and we say this is the mouse. That consciousness, here the master says existence. So there is always an existence in which any object of name and the form exists. Any object of Eric, any object of Girish, any object of computer, anything that exists because of the existence. If the existence is not there, nothing can exist, and that existence is eternal. That is the nature of the real self. That is all pervading. That goes beyond the time and the space. And the same thing the science also says. What this is, matter is neither created nor destroyed. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. So there we agree. Until that point we agree to them. Science says matter is neither created nor destroyed. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. We also say it. So mouse today, maybe a year ago, that mouse was simply a couple of plastic material, a chip. Before that, it was just a raw material. It exists in existence. And still it exists now. Maybe in the name and the form. That is why we say any object of the name and the form is not permanent. Don't get attached to it. Don't get attached to it.
I was thinking we have to acknowledge it though, right? Because our bodies are of the same thing.
Yes.
We're in the world as a body, so
yes.
we can't dismiss it entirely.
You're right.
But yeah, there's two realities. In a sense, right, there's two realities.
Yeah.
Consciousness, like you said, they can't mix, per se, but they exist together.
So because of the moment. You're right, because of RSM syndrome, now existence, we feel that existence is a part, product and property of an object. But the fact is, opposite is true. What is that? That existence is a part, product and property of an object, that is mouse or the body. Just for a moment you think, is mouse has an existence or it is an existence of a mouse? There the mind becomes clear. So in that existence, the mouse appears for some time, that name and the form will disappear after some time. Existence continues as it is. So existence is not a part, product, and property of what exists. Existence is not a part, product, and property of the body or the mind, but it is because of the existence. This body is appeared and body will disappear one day. The existence will continue. No, but no, I don't agree. No, you have to agree because every effect borrows its existence from its cause. Now go to the cause and effect relationship. If there is an effect, mouse is an effect. His body is not an effect. Yes, body is an effect. Dog is an effect. So if it is an effect, no, that is why we say I'm born from such and such parents and etc. etc. I'm born on this. So effect has to borrow its existence from its cause. We are going a little deeper. So now any cause is more pervasive than the effect. That is why it is known as a cause. Any cause is more pervasive than the effect. And the ultimate cause is all pervading, and that ultimate is the consciousness, nothing more than that.
What is the Sanskrit word of the cause? It's like a K, starts with a K. What is that word?
Cause and effect.
But they say like the cause of everything is, there's a Sanskrit word for it, but now I can't remember.
Karya and Karan.
Oh, that's what it is.
Karya and Karan. That is what Swami Dayanand uses. Yes, every master uses. I have become little American, so I'm using English.
No, I've been trying to, as I read more,
Karya and Karan. Karya is the cause and the Karan is the effect. Yes, you're right. So every effect borrows its existence from its cause. Any cause is more pervasive than the effect. Ultimate cause will be all pervading because can you complete the sentence? Because that ultimate cause is the effect of everything that is present in this entire universe. And that cannot be an object, it cannot have a name and the form, and that has to be consciousness. And if that is the consciousness, so that is the real self. Look from the opposite perspective. Every effect borrows its existence from its cause. Every cause is more pervasive than the effect. Therefore, the ultimate cause will be all pervasive. Now, there comes the clarity and where we can live in meditation all the time. So, there are two aspects. One is the real aspect. What is the real aspect? Is the existence. One is the false aspect. That is the name and the form. So name and the form is now, maybe after 50 years, you just give another 50 years to this guy, 65 plus 50. And after that, this name and the form will disappear. This is the false aspect. And what is the real aspect? The existence will continue. So in every object that we see, in everything we experience, it has two things. One is the real aspect, another is the false aspect. False means that changes the name, that appears true today, that may not be true tomorrow, like the mirage water. Everything has two aspects. One is the name and the form aspect, other is the existence aspect, not existence aspect. So what is the definition of the false? If it is dependent on the ultimate cause, that is the definition of the false. And that is the effect. Name and the form we call a false. Name and the form is the body, mind, so false aspect. False cannot exist without the real. That is another problem. That is why we live in ignorance. The false cannot exist without real. Real has to be the cause. Ultimate cause has to be all pervasive if it is real. Means it has to be one. Because name and forms of everything is constantly changing in the entire universe. What is the ultimate cause is the existence. Does the cause is reflected in the effect? Another question. Yes, all the time. All the time. All the time. There we'll stop, but I will just give you a problem. Mouse is. Mouse name in the form is. Break the mouse. Granules is. So is the real self. Existence. And now granules. Name in the form. Powder. Now the mouse is crushed into a powder is. Powder is. Is that is we always use in our language. That is the existence. Body is. So the cause is already reflected there. We are not aware due to the RSM syndrome, and that is the problem. You can go to any object. Object is. Object has changed. Name in the form is known as O2. And still we say that object is. Okay. Now change that name in the form of that object to object number 3. We always say object 3 is. What we say? Object is not mouse, but it is. Come on, it is. That isness. That isness is the existence. And that on that isness, on that existence, in the entire cosmos and the universe, name and the form are constantly changing. It is like the waves in the water. The waves are appearing and disappearing. The waves appear and disappear. What it means by wave appear and disappear? Before the wave appeared, it was non-existent. The moment we see the waves, it becomes existent. So the wave exists, and what exists has to go. So the next moment the wave dissolves into the water. But ultimate cause is present in that wave. What is a wave? It is all water. What is this body? Every cell has a consciousness. Otherwise, I cannot recognize this as the body. So that consciousness is pervading the entire body. It is one unit. How can I recognize I have a body? Body is. Existence is there. Body is not. Existence is not. That is what I gave you an example. That do you know what it is? It is palm plus consciousness. Now, what is there? I forget. Consciousness is still there. Palm is not there. But it does not mean the kind. So this helps me. Every object helps me to manifest, to recognize that consciousness is there. Come to your example that you gave. Here is a dog, is same consciousness. Name in the form is dog. Name in the form is dog. Here is a cat. So what happens? No name in the object is me. If I see here is a donkey, it does not mean I am a donkey. If that is clear to me, here is an Eric with a name in the form, it does not mean I am that. If it is so clear to me, here is a dog. Do you recognize the dog? Yes. How do you recognize? By object of the name in the form. Are you clear? Yes, I'm clear. So I know the dog. Can I say if you know the dog, are you the dog? No. Very good. You have recognized the object with the name in the form. Now you recognize yourself as the name in the form and you say that I am the body and mind. Are you not living in a delusion? Why it happens? So sometime Master says it happens because of me and mine. I give a status of me and mine to the body. This is my body. Go to the ultimate cause of the body. What is the ultimate cause of the body? A certain amount and a proportion of carbohydrate, protein, minerals. That is what is the matter. So is that difference, is that your body is different from my body? So we always live at a very surface level because of the RSM syndrome. We live at a surface level. You are white, I'm black, your eyes are like this, my eyes are like this, etc., etc. But I don't see inside. I can easily be aware that inside is same matter in a different proportion. Science will say, no, no, this is what you are. Okay, you are, if I am a mixture of a definite proportion of carbohydrate, protein, minerals, etc. So bring any scientist and let me bring the same amount, same proportion of the carbohydrate, mineral, etc. on the table. And in the same proportion, let the scientist convert that into a human being of the name and the form. Not possible. So that proves that this is a false notion. I have a false notion that I'm the body and the mind. It cannot be. I'm not the body and the mind. It is not possible. So what we normally do, this guy is crazy. Before I said this guy is crazy, I'm already crazy. I don't recognize. So that demands a sense of humility, an idea of a surrender to continue this journey. Every time I see the two things, existence, because that is the ultimate cause, because of that, in that space, this room exists. Compare that. Tell me, where is an object and there is no space? The space is a container. Whether you have a skyscraper, whether you have a mansion, or whether you have a small house, doesn't matter. What matters to the space? Nothing matters to the space. What matters? You are Bill Gates or Elon Musk. To that existence. Doesn't matter. But we have created a false notion. How? Elon Musk is the richest person in the world. Only one. But he has not become one. That is why we hear a lot of things about him. We have not become one. We did not realize oneness. Becoming one is not a big deal. You become one today and you do not remain number one tomorrow. I give an example, Professor. We talked about it. Miss Universe 2023. Wait until December. There will be a Miss Universe 2024. It's all the chains of the name and the form. Existence is that. Can I see it? Yes, I can see it. It's available here. Space is the container of every object. We say Mars is, how many times? 10 times bigger than the Earth. But both the space is the container of both. Entire galaxy system. So space is all pervasive. Space is more pervasive than any object that we recognize, whether it's an Earth or a sun or Mars or moons or you and me, or my big house or your small house. So same way, the existence is more pervasive. And that does not change. What is changing in the name and the form? Bill Gates was the richest guy a couple of years ago now. The Elon Musk, somebody will more come in the near future. Maybe you will become the richest guy, so who knows?